I bet that made Sanaya happy. At that point, I would try to just throw on 10 or 15 more pounds to see if I could do it.
So, like, do you... Never mind, that was a dumb question.
What?
I know that, like, for the deadlift max, you're supposed to use a straight bar.
Hmm?
Do you guys use the X bar? No. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you shouldn't. All right. Let's make sure Hannah's here. Let me do attendance real quick. Everyone is here. That's good. Okay. So let me pray real quick, and then we'll do announcement. I have a couple announcements and stuff, so we'll do that. All right, pray with me. Almighty God, you have given your only Son to be for us a sacrifice for sin, and also an example of godly life. Give us grace to receive, thankfully, the fruits of his redeeming work, and to follow daily in the blessed steps of his most holy life. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. Amen. All right. So a couple quick announcements, and we'll get into talking about distractions and amongst other things. Are you guys having a good day? I think I said hey, but I didn't ask how you guys are. Are you guys having a good day?
Pretty good.
Decent day? I mean, I guess like for a Wednesday, that's as much as you can expect, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is a good day. It's been a good day, I should say. It's not been terrible, so like that's always a good day. I feel like it's 2020. Like, as long as it's not terrible and like people haven't died, then great. People who you love.
Like, why was your weekend good? Because it wasn't bad.
Exactly. That's like.
Saying like it's a good day, but it's not the best I've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my grandma said.
Really? That's all right. Still good, but it's not great. I get it. Yeah.
Does it have any mark on it?
Oh, yeah. I know. It's perks of just letting the football team use my room, I guess, as I get clothes from them. I just haven't changed it. I don't care.
Can I add a PSA?
A PSA?
Yeah. Did you guys
Like a public service announcement?
Yeah. Did you guys know that Squidward is actually an octopus?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense to you?
His house is about to clarinet.
I don't think that's true.
Don't watch SpongeBob.
Because I'm thinking, and he has 4 legs and 2 arms. 4 legs, which is multiple, and 2 arms, right? Is this a TikTok?
No, I found it. I looked
Oh.
it up. I said, what animal is
There are a couple things that I've seen that are like clearly fake. Like I saw one that my wife shared of.
There's no way.
Oh, that's a picture. Sorry.
You're fine.
I don't know that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the case. If it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? But there was one that was my wife just shared, and it was the dial on a toaster, and it was one of those like how old were you when you realized ones? And it was how old were you when you realized that the dials on the toaster weren't the levels of toast, but it were the minutes. It was the minutes. It's not true. Like my wife shared it, and she was like, I was 36 years old in 10 months. Like that she had never known that, and I was like, that's just not true. And so I did it today. I did it this morning. I was like, okay, I'm going to put on 8. If it doesn't go for 8 minutes, obviously that's wrong. So I did it, set my timer, and it went for like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It is purely the level. It is not the minutes. Yes, that one was. Yeah, of course. Because it's like burnt, like that's the highest it'll go. It's like, but it's not 8 minutes. It's just the intensity of the coils heating up.
Mine has the black lines. Where it's just
Really?
it starts gaining
Oh. That's funny. But yeah, like everything on the internet you can't believe. It's unfortunate. It's fake news. Fake news. All right. I don't even know what I was going to say. This is the end of the day. This is basically how every 8th period is going to go. We'll just ease into everything, and if we get it done, we get it done. Really quickly, let me give you guys some announcements. We're going to, so we're going to I'll wait for you. I'm just kidding. That's great problem solver. It is. So tomorrow, so today we're going to get done with talking about knowledge, like what is my experience. We're going to talk about distractions for a little bit, and then talk about the final part of our thesis, which is the centered on a personal being. Yeah?
We're kind of like going through this of how the reading is.
Like the Pascal reading? I know. I mean, I'm not making fun of you. I'm really, like, that actually makes me really proud of you that you realize that. No, but it's okay, like, seriously. Because most people are like, why are we reading this? Like, well, did you read it? Are you paying attention to what we're doing in class? Like, it's kind of the same stuff.
It's okay. It's my, like, reading analysis. A lot of it's, like, really similar to stuff we're talking about in class.
I don't care. All I care about is that you remember what we're talking about. Which, like, yes, that would be great. Because it will be important for life, but also for the quiz that we'll have in, like, a couple weeks. So, yeah.
Wait, you said it's not, you have to actually respond.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, is it open book?
No. But I give you the quiz questions beforehand. So there are like 4 quiz questions that I'll give to you, and I'll say, hey, I'm going to pick 2 of them for you to answer. 2 or 3, something like that. And then you can figure out, I'll give you a day of like in-class work to like work on it and write out your answers. You just won't be able to have your answers in front of you. But you'll be able to, does that make sense? You'll be able to like study really specifically about how you want to answer. Yeah. So try to make it as easy as possible, but also, I mean, not like super easy. Yeah. Okay, so knowledge, we'll be done with this today. Then tomorrow, we're supposed to have like the final day of knowledge because I thought I had timed it out well to where we'd have 4 days, but we end up getting done with stuff early, which is totally fine. I don't know if it'll happen often. If it does, then we'll have more work days, but I wouldn't count on it. So what we're going to do is tomorrow we'll have a work day on like worldview stuff. Were you going to say, what if we did everything?
Yeah, and then I realized that you'd be very ahead if you did everything.
Yeah, if you did everything, then you would be the first person in the history of the universe to do like all of Worldview in like a week.
Yeah.
There is. Which is like also, it's like a double-edged sword because like, yes, like that stinks because it's kind of overwhelming, but also like you should never feel like, no. You should always feel like you're worthless and you've never done anything. No, like, you should not feel not urgent. Like you shouldn't feel like that there is like you can just do nothing for weeks at a time. Like a day or two, like the weekend, man, get work done in the week so you don't have to worry about doing it in the weekend. I would love that so that you're not overwhelmed with my class. But people don't do that. So that's why I say it's a double-edged sword. You should always feel like there's something to do, but also work efficiently to get stuff done so you don't have to do it all at once. Sure. There you go. So yeah, even if you've already got the Pascal reading done, if you haven't gotten the Pascal reading done, bring your Worldview reader to class tomorrow and read the Pascal reading, and then do the reading response. Plenty of time to do that. If you've already gotten that done, then bring your first reading or your book, whichever one. It might be both for you, but your first reading, read through that. Fill out the reading log. If you want to take time to meet with me to talk about your reading, there's no sign up for it, but just say, hey, Fight, can we talk? And I'd be happy to talk. If you've already done it and filled out your reading log, then we can meet during that time if there's no one else meeting with me. Would love to do that. Yeah.
Did you cross this out?
Yes, I did.
An actual book?
No, just on the copy.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering because I feel like that'd be very sad.
That would be sad, but no, just in that copy. Yeah, Claire.
So, you want us to share our reading log?
Yeah, like right before you like come to meet with me, just share it with me. It'd be easiest. So is there any question about what we're doing tomorrow? Great. This is one of those days where it's like I want it to be a Worldview workday class. Okay? So no other work, no math, no AP stats, no whatever else. I know. Okay, great. So let's get started. Ooh. Let's talk about yesterday. What did we say what are the two things that we kind of came to a conclusion about our longing, our experience as longing?
Only partial satisfaction.
Yes. So the first one is we're satisfied, but only partially. And so we talked about how even beforehand, so let's think like Christ is the fulcrum of our experience, like the center point of it, right? Then before Christ, we even find partial satisfaction in like things, right? So we talked about food, we talked about relationships, we talked about school, yeah. Then what's the right word? We discover, we develop, we gain, we have faith in Christ. I don't know what the right word would be. Then, afterwards, it's still, we have satisfaction, but it's still in part. Like Paul says in 1 Corinthians, we now see through a mirror dimly, but there will be a time when we see perfectly, right? That's that partial satisfaction. We are satisfied, but in part. So yes, that's the first thing. What was the second thing? That was what the catalyst for longing is, right? So the things that we encounter, both joys and pains, that are the things that like catalyze our longing. They put a flame underneath the logs for us of our longing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do I want when I can't stop wanting? That partially gets at the first point of satisfied, but partial satisfaction. But I think it also produces that idea of, yes, we have this desire, and it doesn't go away ever from birth to death. And so what is the proper object of that desire? So it's not about asking, it's not about asking ourselves, I don't know if anyone would ever ask yourself this question, like, what do I long? Like, that might not be the best way of answering or asking that, but it's never about, like, am I a longing creature? It's what do I long for? What is the thing that provides that happiness, that deep, sustainable joy, that satisfaction, okay? So today what we want to do is talk about distraction. Because when we ask ourselves that question, what do I want when I can't stop wanting? What we usually find is that we're not very comfortable thinking through that. We're not comfortable engaging with it, and we're not comfortable with what the possibility might be. So we have the perspective of like Goldilocks, where our longing is way too hot. It burns too intensely. And we want nothing more but then to like alleviate that and to get rid of it. Or we focus our energies somewhere else. That's what distraction is. So I want to talk about this in three different ways. I want to talk about the why behind it, the how behind distraction, and then the what. So, why do we distract ourselves? Really quickly, let me say this. Our condition is one that is like cognitively tasking. What I mean by that, that's not my language. That's I think that's Lewis's language. But what that means is that it's really difficult to think about. So let me ask this question to start. Why, not do we distract ourselves, but why do we not want to like actively engage with our condition? Why is it so difficult to think about? That's the why. Why is our condition so difficult to think about? What makes it tricky to think about? Is that a hand? Okay, yeah. Maybe.
Like sometimes we might not like the conditions that like we are in, and so we don't want to have to acknowledge that like, we're not in a good condition. Like we need to change, and we're content just being where we are, and don't feel like doing anything.
Okay.
Change.
No, I think that that's a great example of that. First things first, I think we don't want to think about it because it means, I don't know if accepting is the right word, admitting. It means admitting that we're not perfect, that there's something wrong with us. And no one wants to do that. Like, whenever I get into arguments with my wife, it's always, well, you, rather than admitting anything that I've ever done. And even then, when I finally do, it's like, well, I guess you're right. Like, I just, give in slowly to it. Because I want to admit that I was wrong in any way. That, like, kind of goes against, like, our nature in some ways, because we want to be right and we want to know that we're doing the right thing. But to say, my nature as being, awesome and, like, valuable and significant, but also, man, deeply flawed, that is admitting something that not a lot of us want to. That's good. Yes, Naya.
I agree with that, and then I think that, like, the reason why it's so difficult is not only, like, accepting it, but, like, once you accept it, then you know you have to, like, either, like, seek help or, like, change something in your life, and that's a lot of people do not.
Why is that difficult? You said because people don't like change, but maybe the better question is, why do people not like change? I agree with you 100%, but why might people, and there are probably 1,000 different reasons why people might not like change, but give us one.
Well, it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're set in your ways, and then you have to change something, so then it's completely different.
Yeah.
I don't like being uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, like, hopefully you've noticed too that this is like, the language and some of the points that we're talking about are like, talked about a ton within Christianity. What we're trying to get to is the heart of like what actually is at the reason for like these feelings that we have and what's at stake with them. Rather than just, well, we don't want to get out of our comfort zone. Well, that's great, but like, why not? Like, what is at the heart of that? Well, it's because I don't want to maybe address like the negative aspect of me or that like wretched part of me. Or maybe it's the fear of the unknown. I don't know what that change is going to look like. And I'm really comfortable where I'm at right now, and I don't want to worry about anything else. Yeah, that's a great one. What else? Why do we not want to think about our nature? Yeah, Faith.
You gotta beat yourself, you beat yourself up.
Oh, man. That's a really good one. Yeah. It can be very self-deprecating in a lot of really significant ways. Because I think for most of us, we are either trained or, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying like it's a natural thing, but maybe it is that we're trained to whenever something like is wrong with us, to then like it snowballs and now there are 1,000 other things that are wrong. Right? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not laughing because it's funny. Every girl was like, hmm? And the guys are like, what? And I think that's a keen insight into a very important other point maybe. But that's what I've experienced, not necessarily, in part in my own life. What?
I said it's not even us who are like, it causes us to snowball. It's usually experiences this guy who then explains things to snowball.
That.
We are shaking our heads because you do it.
Jeez. I mean, it's not me personally, is it? Yeah. I know, I mean. I said it's not me personally, is it? Just you as in y'all, like men as a whole. Yeah, what about the girl that you talked about, Casey? It's her fault, right? No, it's I'm kidding. I would agree with you. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other conversation. When we get to society, to whom do I belong, we'll talk a little bit about males and females. But yeah.
I agree with that. I think once you get to like you're talking about snowball effect, like more and more, and then a lot of people think they're like past the point of like no return.
Yeah.
So it's like something I can do, like I'm too far gone.
Yes.
It is horrible, like talent to have, but a lot of people just struggle with it. So.
Yeah, 100%. It is one of the most complicated issues when you talk about like the psychology of the individual who says, because of one experience that I've had, whether I created it or it was like happened to me, now that snowballs. That is not an inevitability, but it is. I kind of fear saying this, but like it's something that comes about when we don't acknowledge like both sides of our nature. Because we don't want to think about it, because then it's like, well, if this thing happened to me, then I must have deserved it in some way. I must have done something to do it. And we start like playing the blame game with ourselves. Like, I did this, I should have done X, I could have, so on and so forth. And that's not just a female thing. Like, I do that with my kids all the time. Like, man, I should have done this, I could have done this. It's just a human thing. Yeah, it's very easy to heap on when one thing happens. That's a really great insight. Thanks for that, Faith. What else? Give me a couple, maybe one more. Why don't we think about our condition? Why don't we want to think about our condition? Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. I would add to that our like age, like our cultural moment doesn't give us the space to think about it. Because I think it ties directly into that laziness, because yeah, we're lazy because we just don't want to. Like, I'll do that tomorrow. But also, there are so many other things that are seemingly easier to engage with. And when I say engage with, I mean just consume, right? I don't mean actually like engage with. I mean just take in. That won't make us feel as bad, won't challenge us as much, won't be as hard. And it's easier to just like, I'm just going to watch Netflix. Or like, I'm just going to like take a shower or something. Rather than engaging with it. But also our age doesn't, because there's so much at our fingertips. We'll talk more about that next week, but that's a good one. That's a fantastic one. At the end of the day, though, what we want to do is kind of get beyond this, is to move beyond this idea that we don't think about it, because, I mean, one of my like unwritten goals of this class is that now that we talk about this, you guys are cognizant of it. Now, if you to not think about it, it just shows ignorance, not stupidity. But like you're ignoring something that is a reality now because you have been face to face with it, right? But the idea is that, as Pascal says, sometimes we just want to ignore it because maybe we get bored with it. We're apathetic of it. We just don't care. And so we want to entertain ourselves more and kind of give ourselves more to entertain ourselves with. That's what a distraction is. When we feel like we don't want to encounter this and we just want to replace that thing that we need to engage with something else. That's a distraction. So here's my next question. And I want you guys in your Commonplaces book to write 3 things down. How do you distract yourself? Like personally. But here's the caveat. I do not want you to say Netflix or social media. That can't be one of them. I want you to be creative about this. And creative in the sense of just being like thoughtful, like engaging with like your actual experience, your lived-in experience. How do you distract yourself? I said showering before. Showering is a way that I distract myself. If I have stuff that, if I have grading that's due within 24 hours and I need to get it done, if it's like midnight and I need to start, I haven't taken a shower in a few days. I'll do that and then I'll do it. Then I'll get started because I'll be refreshed. I'll be ready to go. And then I get out of the shower and I just go right to bed. Like the showers are distracting for me, or it's a form of distraction. Not always, right? Sometimes they're just functional, but most of the time it can be a distraction. What are those? Give me 3 things for you, really quick. Not really quick. Take a minute. I take such hot showers that like I'm immediately tired afterwards. It doesn't actually make me feel better.
I feel like taking a shower before work would be a good idea. My parents don't know how they stay that before work because they can always hear the shower because it's right next to the bathroom. They know when I go to bed.
That's understandable.
Their room is right next to the bathroom. Well,
You did, but we got what you're saying. I'm catching what you're dropping. Okay, Megan.
Well, I put like busy in quotes.
Okay.
Like it sounds weird, but like I tell myself like, oh, I have to do all these things, even though like I don't really have to do them. Like, I'm like, oh, I have to clean my room. Or, like,
Yeah.
I have to work so much. I'm so busy. So I really can. I just get a mindset where like I need to do these things before I do this.
Absolutely. That's a really great example of that. I will, if like, I always go back to grading because if teaching didn't include grading, I would love teaching so much more, but it does, and that's the worst part about it. But if I have grading due in like 24 hours, I will, to put it off or to like to distract myself, I will think of something that I need to do a month from now and do that. Like spend 3 hours doing something that isn't important or isn't worth it or isn't due, whatever, for a month or two, and I'll spend that 3 hours doing it, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, now I can do this, or now I'm tired. Okay, I'm just going to go to bed, and then I'll wake up early and do it. That is a lie. That is the greatest lie we tell ourselves is I'll wake up and do it. Never do that. Just stay up till 2. Just suffer. That's a great one, though. Like busy in all aspects of it. I like that. What else? Ty, what'd you say?
I said thinking/worrying.
Thinking and worrying?
A lot of like you were talking about like school. If I have a lot to do, I like think about all the stuff I have to do, and then I don't actually do it.
So distracting yourself is actually like putting yourself in the middle of all of the crap that you have to do, and then just like simmering in it.
Yeah, like if I have a study hall, I'll sit there and think, oh, I have so much homework to do.
That is so, that just like spoke to my soul. Like in the same way that, like I do that, yes, I feel that. And I think that a lot of other people do. Like you're just thinking about it. Like it'd be a lot better if I actually did something, but that also means like work. Dude, the paper for this class, people don't start the paper for this class until like April because they're like, I just don't know how to start it. Once you type those first few words, then it like flows out. But getting started is easily the hardest part. Totally agree with that. That's a great one.
Or I'll like justify like, oh yeah, I'm not in the right mindset right now, I'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Certain things you got to be in the mood for. Yeah.
Mine, I talk to people. Like, while I'm doing homework, I listen to the conversations around me, and then as soon as they say something that reminds me of something else, I just get up from my homework and go join the conversation and completely ignore it.
That's hysterical. Yeah. Yeah, Faith.
I sleep/take naps.
My top 3 would be shower, and then the second one would be,
Showering is on there for me too.
yeah, it would be cat naps.
I gotta do my homework. But it said I'm gonna take a shower.
Yeah.
And then I have zero motivation to do homework.
Yeah. Cat naps are the biggest thing. Because when you're sleeping, you don't really, like, feel the stress. Like, whenever I'm depressed, like, I just sleep because you don't really feel that or you don't have to feel it. Unless you dream about it, which has happened to me before. Because then, like, that's even worse. But yes, absolutely. Oh. Like what Ty said in study hall, you're just thinking about it all. Absolutely. What else? Ways you distract yourself. Mitch, what about you?
I have a few things, but maybe cooking.
Cooking?
Yeah.
I'll have to give you more work so then we can all just benefit from that.
Yeah, I spent like 3 hours making baked spaghetti one time.
What? Nice.
Instead of doing anything.
I mean, you're doing something, just not what you're supposed to be doing, right? Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, cooking can be one. Over quarantine, baking was one for me. Like when I didn't want to think about whether or not we were coming back or like my kids if they were going back to school, I would always just like bake. It was great. Also became much of like a sympathy thing too, where I just ate everything. But I mean that was quarantine, so whatever. Yeah, nice.
I go on drives sometimes.
Drives can definitely be that way. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Gianna.
Well, I'll either not insert myself in other people's lives. Like for my boyfriend, for example, I'll talk to him and see what's going on in his life at college and stuff, and then I'll start talking about that and asking him about that, and kind of avoid talking about what's going on with me. So I just kind of put it in the back of my mind. Or I work or try to work extra shifts or something like that, because when you're at work, you have one job and you can only be thinking about that one job because you're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And you can get fired if you don't do it the right way. So you really don't have another option but to focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Picking up extra shifts. That is one that someone else said in another class of they worked at Chick-fil-A and they were I would just call in hey, do you need anyone? If they did, then you go work, right? Absolutely. That's a great one. That's one that is really poignant. Work, because it is the epitome of getting your mind on something else and focusing on that, at least for that 6 hours or whatever, however long your shift is. then when you leave, you're left to back to your own thoughts and devices. Like you have to go back to it. I know. That's good. Let me end with this. The only other way that I see you guys like distracting yourselves is through like tomorrow. If we give you the work day, and this has happened in past classes and happens every class, where people are like, oh man, okay, before I get to work, I need to like get a playlist. And we'll take like 25 minutes of class to like create and craft like the perfect work playlist. And then like start listening to it and then read like 2 pages and the bell goes off and you're like, oh, well, guess we'll do it later. Like they just spend half the class like getting a playlist and then no time left for work. It's not really because you need the perfect playlist, it's because you didn't want to do the work, but this is an excuse for it. Yeah. So those are distractions. Those are great too. And I think that this can be almost anything. Like sports can be a distraction. Even like drama can be a distraction. But as Gianna said, like someone else's drama is a distraction because it doesn't let me think about mine. Here's the last one. What do you distract yourselves from? So, give me 2 things in your life. What do you distract yourself from? Let's see if Hannah said anything. No. All right, what do you guys distract yourselves from? Yeah, Jenna.
I've been thinking about like the future after high school and like college and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm one of those people who have like a fear of the unknown, so like just thinking like this is literally like the last couple months that we're gonna have here, like with our families and everything, depending on where we go and stuff. And like after that, we're gonna be like on our own in like the real world. That's like scary. So like I try not to think about it a lot, but now we're like kind of being forced to. Like, college applications and everything.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna write these down. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that I keep bringing up like college and last day with your friends and all of this stuff. Well, yeah. That's good. Yeah, okay. Yes. So why do you distract yourself from confrontation?
I think I just really don't like having to do something that's gonna either displease people or something like that. Like I moved here and I came from Traders Point and everyone expected me to move back to Traders Point. So I just didn't tell any of them that I was moving back.
Oh my gosh. Were they like good friends?
Some of them, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was
I'm not like that you should be ashamed of that, but like that's pretty serious.
but I was going to Covenant instead.
Yeah.
I feel like it would let them down. Like I betrayed them.
Would you, sorry if this is like super personal, would you consider yourself a people pleaser?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that instance, being afraid of confrontation or wanting to like distract yourself from any sort of confrontation doesn't necessarily equate to being a people pleaser. Because like it might just be like I didn't want to upset anyone or I didn't want to upset them. Being a people pleaser is more broad than that, but okay. No, that definitely correlates. That makes sense. Wow. All right. So afraid of confrontation or want to distract yourself from that. So it's not even like distraction for you might just be like ignorance then of like just not even dealing with it, like shoving it under the rug, right? I do that with like bills sometimes. I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay that. Like student loan bills, I'm like, ugh. Until it like comes to the time where like I have to pay like the day before, and I'm like, ugh, okay. It's different than like telling your friends something really significant, right? But yeah. Okay, confrontation. What else? Yeah, Caleb.
My feelings.
Huh?
My feelings.
My feelings, absolutely. Devon, you have feelings? Yeah. Dude, it is. Like, especially, so if we talk about girls feeling like the snowball thing that we talked about before, I think that guys are more, I don't want to say more. Culturally, guys are taught more to distract yourself if you're feeling anything less than like confident or happy or, courageous, things like that. Like if a guy feels sad, like especially in London, like English children, if they're boys, like they're taught not to cry in public. Like ever. Not in front of their dad. Because the idea is that like crying shows weakness, or it shows like some sort of vulnerability that is not healthy for them. Obviously, like culturally, that might be the case, but like personally, that is anything but healthy. But guys are always taught to ignore their feelings or to distract themselves if that comes up, right? So like that's why guys like, I mean, it's a joke, right? But like guys, if they cry in a movie, it's like, oh, it's allergies, there's dust. Like it's become a joke, but like that joke came from somewhere. Someplace, some guy said that and meant it. Now we make fun of that for it, but which I think is maybe that's not right to do. Like we're still. I know, right? Maybe it is. Yeah, but whatever. It should have feelings. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, nice. Oh, you're saying that? All right, Mitch.
No, I would say just relates to distractions in general. It's not really a super specific thing, but sometimes I'll do this thing where I won't be fully productive, but I won't do something that I'd consider fully rewarding, and I'll find myself in the middle ground, and I'll like say like, yeah, I'm busy right now, but I'm not actually fully concentrating and doing the work.
Okay. I don't know a word I could use for that. Not fully concentrating. I think that's just distracting. I think that, yeah, you're doing something that may not be as important, but it still takes up time. Yeah, absolutely. What else? What do you distract yourself from? I think this is a good. I don't want to say that this encapsulates everything, but like it's pretty good. Responsibilities. We distract ourselves from. Confrontation is one that I always think of. Feelings is definitely a good one. The unknown. All of these are really great. And here's the thing. I think that there is a commonality that we can find amongst all of these. Even though they seem to be different or of different aspects of our life. And I think that commonality, like if I were to write a thesis paper on this, I think that I would argue that the commonality amongst all of these things, or all of these reasons why we distract ourselves, is because we have maybe we aren't aware or we don't have knowledge of our dual nature, like the duality of man. Because it all comes from either complete ignorance, like the porridge is cold, or it's too intense, or we have this like dualistic perspective where we focus on one side and reject the other. So if we talk about the duality of man and we talk about the greatness on one side, the wretchedness of the other, if we emphasize one or the other, then what we find is that if we emphasize our greatness and like ignore the wretchedness, that what we get is this like naive optimism. That everything is sunshine and rainbows and everything's perfect and nothing's bad, and even if bad things happen to us, we always see the best in everyone to our fault because we don't actually engage with like the reality of a situation. When I think of naive optimism, I think of the like young, maybe high school age, maybe college age couple who just started dating and like, oh my gosh, like we just never fight. It's been like 6 months and we just never fight. Like, probably because you guys aren't actually talking. Like, that always is like, whenever I hear, we had, is this the class I made the joke about Bible college? No, it was in previous class. Everything is blending together. I'm so sorry. We have a couple who, friends who were a couple who they dated for like 9 months, got engaged and married within the next 3 months, like crazy, like dating, engaged, married within a year. Yeah, wild. They're now divorced. And I don't say that lightly, but like Bible college, like that's a norm, like not a norm. That is not a unique thing. People get married and like get engaged in order to have sex because they grew up in a Christian family, but then they realize that like sex actually isn't the entirety of a relationship. And then they end up like divorcing within like a year. We have friends that actually did all of that, were dated, engaged, married within 6 months, and within the next 6 months were divorced. Like it's a really significant deal. Like the stat of like 50% of Christian marriages actually end in divorce. That's not like 20-year-long marriages. That's most of that. I would argue like 90% of that 50%. Did that make sense? Yeah, okay. I don't know if that made sense in my head, but I came with it at the top. Is like the people who get married, who date, engaged, married within like 6 months. Because we have 4 couples like who are friends of ours who that happened to. It's crazy. But this is like the couple who like 6 months, we just haven't fought, we're perfect for each other. And then like they have one fight and they break up. Because there's this thought, there is this perception that everything is awesome. That is not in alignment with reality. Your partner, your spouse, like your boyfriend, girlfriend, will make you mad. You will make them mad. That is reality, because what that does is that addresses the greatness of like and the value inherent within each of you, but also both of you are deeply flawed. It's an acknowledgement of the duality of man as opposed to an ignorance of one side or the other. So this like naive optimism. But at the same time, I think that like, I don't know, maybe like the fear of the unknown. We'll just use that as an example because that's one of the 3 up here. Might be an emphasis on the other side of like our wretchedness I feel like I'm talking way too fast. It might be an emphasis of our wretchedness for the sake of forsaking like our greatness and like the possibility that we have within us, the value that we have. And this comes down to like a gloomy fatalism. Meaning it's like fate, right? Whatever will be, like the fates, it's up to the fates, and now I can do nothing about it, and it's all going to go poorly. That's my luck, right? That type of language. That obviously there's a fear of the unknown where it's like, I fear the unknown because you just don't know it, and it might go good, but it's just a change, right? But then there's this type of fear of the unknown where it's, I don't know what's going to happen, but also I know that it's all going to be bad. That is this like gloomy fatalism. And so for my thesis, I would say, man, all of these things that we distract ourselves from come from a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding of our nature as humans, the duality of man. We're deeply flawed, we're wretched, but we're also significantly valuable. And we have this greatness within us. And that is, as Faith showed us that connection before, that's Pascal, right? So here's, I don't want to go into that. Are there any questions about any of this? Like how this connects to, I feel like it can be kind of disconnected, but in my mind it all connects. Huh? I didn't really have a thesis that I was like stating. It would just be that the things that we distract ourselves from are a result of not acknowledging or ignoring our nature as dual. That it's people who emphasize this, or just don't even understand it at all, who seek easily to distract themselves from certain things because they just don't have an awareness of reality. Really, it just comes down to they're not self-aware. Yeah?
Okay, this might sound a little stupid or broad, but I don't know, I kind of see it in like K-love music. Not all K-love music, but like K-love versus like heavy metal.
No, I don't think that's stupid or broad. But I actually think that's a really good illustration. Because like, when we get to, I don't know if heavy metal would be it. I don't want to say like secular music to you because I reject that idea of secular. But when we get to beauty, we'll talk about this a lot more. But I would say like K-Love, where it's just everything is rainbows. Let's just go with the heavy metal. I like that. Oh, no. Let's go Screamo. I don't know if that's the right way to spell it. Whatever. Like Wildman's favorite music, right? Screamo. That it's like really intense, like, oh, we suck. And then, oh, but we're so beautiful. It's everything, right? I think that's a good illustration for that. I really do. I think it could be better. But I like that as a good illustration because it gets to the heart of it's just everything is perfect, everything is awful. But we have to see both of these as coming into play within our experience, not just one of them or the other. Because if we see both of them, then we realize that, like, yeah, it might suck now, but also we have the possibility, like, we have this, like, value within us that it's worth working towards? The question I think that an interesting thesis might come from is like, well, how do we work towards that? How do we not snowball? Right? That's something else too. Okay, really quickly, because we're running out of time. So let's do two things. One is the source of our longing, and two is the object. The source is obviously our dual nature, but I think that specifically within the Christian worldview, the Christian worldview gives us a very clear response to these two things. The source of our longing is the fall.
Is this longing or distraction?
Longing. Sorry. Longing is for both of these. What is the source of our longing? It is the fall. The Christian worldview gives us this picture where we say we understand that we can understand that because we long for something, we know that there's something out there that can make us happy. We also know what happiness feels like. We know what deep, sustainable joy is, maybe even latent within us because we once had it. Think about the Christian worldview that says we were perfect in Eden and then that got ruined by the fall. Now, biblically, all we're trying to do is get back to that picture or get to that experience of perfection, of fulfillment, of complete satisfaction. So the fall is this doctrine or this event that helps us to explain our condition in a way that aligns with our experience. Let me say that again. The fall helps to explain our condition in a way that aligns with our experience. Meaning, it says, the fall tells us you are wretched because you are filled with this force now of sin. But also, you still have this possibility of greatness because you're made in the image of God, and that does not go away with the fall. Yeah. The fall helps to give an explanation for our condition in a way that aligns with our experience. Because let's think of it this way. Oh, yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit more? I understand, it explains our condition because you can kind of see where, I don't understand the fall, but I don't.
Here, let me try to say it in this way. The fall is a doctrine that helps us to understand, one, why we long. Because we had perfection and then we lost it. And two, it helps us to explain our current experience of pain, joy, suffering, the human experience, in a way that aligns our condition with our experience. What I mean by that is that no matter what we experience, it all has meaning and purpose behind it because it is rooted in this doctrine of the fall that also implicitly gives us this doctrine of the object of our longing, which is God. Because the whole purpose of the fall is to say, yes, you're separated, but you can be reconciled. Romans 3 and Romans 5, specifically. You once were enemies with God, now through Jesus Christ our Lord, you have become friends with God. Romans 5, 1 through 5, I think. 1 through 3, sorry. That's what I mean when I say the fall helps us to explain our condition in a way that aligns with our experience. It helps to tell us who we are, and it also helps to give us an explanation of why we go through what we go through, which is that tension, right? Longing. Yeah? Does that help in any way?
Yeah, I think understanding, it helps us understand why we go through it.
Yes, absolutely. And not even just the why, but the reason behind it. What's the goal of it? Well, it's to bring us back into a right relationship with God. Because if you think about Augustine, I'm going to give you the second half of that quote, right? Our hearts are restless, O God, until they find rest in you. Let me give the broader quote. He says, you stir us up to take delight in your praise, for you have made us for yourself. And our heart is restless, O God, until it finds its rest in you. So the Christian worldview is one that doesn't answer this question perfectly, but it responds to the question in a way that points humanity towards engaging with our longing, knowing why we seek distraction, and then also helping us to understand that all of those things push our focus onto an eternal, infinite God, a personal God, because He is the one who fulfills us. Augustine, the first two books of Confessions, all about stealing a pear from a pear tree, and then Augustine like slept with women throughout his teens. But then later on in life, when he comes to Jesus, he finds out that his restless heart sought, appreciation from his friends for stealing a pear, attention from women in that way. But really all it was doing is that those things were ways that he was filling that experience, or those are experiences that he was trying to come to a terms with his condition. But in reality, what that really was is that those were things that pointed to, these might satisfy you partially, but the thing that gives your heart rest is God. That's what all those things were actually pointing towards. So yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, tomorrow, work your reader or your reading log, or you can meet with me, and I would love to have conversations tomorrow. Okay? Cool.
Because we skipped you on that Friday, I don't think I ever came up to get my topic and all that.
Perfect. All right, let's do that. No, that's okay. Thanks for coming up to do it. That's right. Hey, has everyone gotten their process document, their book, stuff like that? If you haven't, come up to me. All right. Let's double check and make sure what your topic is. So, goodness. What is a good life? Perfect. All right. Here is your first reading. Ew. This is that. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is your first reading. Guys, have a great rest of your day. This is your first reading, which is right here. All right?
Yep.
So you'll read this, fill out the reading log, then sign up for a meeting with me.
Yep.
This, here you can take that. This is the book that you will read for the semester.
Okay.
That by Thanksgiving have this read, and that's what the end of the semester project will be on.
Uh-huh.
But it's also your second reading,
Okay.
not the whole book. It's just going to be, I think, the introduction
Okay.
will be that reading.
Okay.
But I'll remind you that of when you get to that reading, okay?
Awesome.
But I would suggest starting with the introduction and then just reading through, so that then when you get to the second reading, you've already got it done.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ty. Oh, I've got a staff meeting.